to anybody watching this video. My name's Isaac, and I just thought I'd take a minute to share about my calling. I created a new channel. I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do with it, but the inspiration is from Isaiah, where he's talking and he says to sing a new song for the Lord. That's really the inspiration of this channel, is to sing or to create a new thing for God. And that's kind of the inspiration from this, is to create a new channel, one that hasn't really been formed, but it can only be new by the inspiration of God. Now, I had thought about it before. Do I want to do videos on my hobby? Do I want to share my calling? What exactly do I want to do with this channel? And I had a love for video editing, and I wasn't quite sure. Yeah, I thought about it, prayed about it, and I did a couple videos, and this is the path that I think is the best, is just to share my testimony. And really what I want to do on this first video is to share about my calling. I had originally planned to just share everything from my calling to my first journey, but it became too much. There's just too much information to pack in on just the calling. And so really I want to start on with a good foundation. When I was about 6, I gave my heart to the Lord. Probably about 5 or 6. I don't remember the age. I remember the moment. I just told him, you know what, I'm going to serve you. I don't know what that means. I was just a kid, but I was just like, you know what, honestly, I don't even think I knew that. I didn't know what it meant. I was just like, hey, you're God, I'm not, so I'm following you. But that happened at a very young age. As I became older, I matured. I didn't mature out of God, but I started to put aside the things of God, and I started just to kind of live my own life almost. I would say I gave 50% to God, and then the other 50% I lived it how I thought it ought to be lived. And that happened until I was about the age of 17. Pastor kids camp, or missionary kids, and there was a speaker there that came up to us and he challenged us. He said, there's very, very, very few people that will give God 100%, though there's a lot that will give 90%, maybe 95. Some will maybe give 99, but there's very few people willing to give 100%. And he talked about his own experience, but the main part of his challenge was, you have hobbies and you're like, you know what, God, I know I want to search you in this area, but these hobbies, they're not evil, they're not sinful, but don't ask me to give these up. I still want to, hang out with these people or do these things. It's not sinful, but just don't ask me to give that up, and I'll do whatever else that you want me to do. I want to make time for this. And I would say that's a noble thing, to give God all of this, but you still have a little bit of hobbies and something that you're not willing to give up. And now, some people, it's a little bit more extreme, where it might be something like a relationship or something sinful, and they're like, God, I'll give you everything. I know this isn't the person you want me to be with. They're not a Christian, or maybe they are a Christian, but there's something going on there that it's not the right person. And so you become compromised at that point, but you're like, God, I'll give you all of this, just don't ask me to do away with this. I came to that place in my life, and I was challenged. I was like, okay, God, I don't know exactly what this means, but I'm going to give you 100%. And I feel like very few people do this, and it's evident, because you don't see very many people actually have these incredible stories. And I'm not super holy or anything. I'm not, I didn't live the best lifestyle growing up. I knew what I should have should do, but I did against it. I knew what sin was, and yet I sinned anyways. I knew who God was, and yet I still found myself not doing the things He wanted me to do. And I decided right then and there to give 100% to God. And I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what that would mean. I didn't know what that was, but I made that promise to God. I said, I'll give you everything of mine. I don't know what that means. If you want me to sell all of my possessions, whatever, you got it. Just make it clear and I'll do it. Maybe I didn't say that part, but I made the promise to him. And so for the next month or so, I was very on fire for God. And I remember going to this would have been 2009? Yeah, October 2009. I get to this, I start volunteering at a place called the Storehouse of God. And it's just a local outreach center that teams from all across the United States comes to. Churches send these mission teams to come volunteer in the community or whatever. And it's meant to help the people that are hurting. I was working at a place called Chick-fil-A. I didn't have much time that week to volunteer, but there was a team that came in from Maryland, and they sent us probably about 40 people to do some work through the community, maybe work at the church. I don't remember exactly what they did, but at the end of the week, we had a big celebration for the community, and this team decided to stay for that, and then they were going to stay for the church service that Sunday, and then they would leave. So Saturday, we have this big event, and that's the only day I have to volunteer. And I go to the event, and my job for that day, I think, was to maintain a small campfire. And we had some s'mores and hot dogs and different things for the workers. It was more just a place that you could come to relax at. We had nachos and cheese on the inside for the kids, and hot dogs, but it was more for the workers just to relax. Now, some of the community members came by anyways, but I was there. And there's a guy from Maryland there though. He was part of this church team, and I started talking to him for about 5 minutes. His name was Lucho, and he started talking to me about probably soccer or something. Just a 5-minute throwaway conversation. The only thing I remember really is that he told me that he had never had a s'more before, and so I show him how to make one. And next day we have this combined church service, and nothing seems to really be different about it, just a normal church service. But after the service, Lucho came up to me. He's an immigrant from Peru. He didn't bring a lot with him, but he came up to me, and he had this soccer jersey that had Peru on it. He said, God told me before I came that I'm supposed to give this to someone. He said, so I brought this with me on this trip. He said, I believe it's you. He said, I was praying and I saw God gave me a vision of you and said that, and showed me that you're going to be surrounded by kids in my home country. He said, and when you're there, I want you to wear this jersey. And he gave it to me, and I didn't think much of it. I didn't know exactly what that meant or anything. And I just thought, okay, I'm getting called to Peru. I don't really feel it myself, but this guy thinks I'm called. I don't know what that means. I'll accept it. I didn't tell anybody about it. I told my parents that I got a jersey. They were like, oh, that's neat. Why'd they give you a jersey? I was like, I don't know. And then the next year, I started to really want to get a girlfriend. It seemed like I was desperate for that. And I met someone on Facebook, and I remember immediately when I added him. This is back in 2010. Immediately whenever I added him, I felt a check in my spirit, and God said, don't date that person. And I was like, okay, I'll listen to that, I guess. But, I don't know what that means. That's I knew what it meant, but I didn't want to listen to it. And like I said, I was desperate. I wish I wouldn't have gone against that check in my spirit, but that ended up wasting 3 years of my life. I was, like I said, in rebellion against God. The person I thought I was looking for check marks. Are you a Christian? Are you, I don't know what the other check marks were. Are you good? Are you nice? And a lot of these check marks I forced to happen. The Christian one, I didn't try to see how deep connected she was to Christ. I just was like, tell me how you get saved. And she gave me a brief plan of salvation. I was like, all right, that's good enough to check that off the list. And, thinking back about it now, it wasn't a great response. It was just, she told me something like, you just have to say the words and something. I don't know. It wasn't a legit experience. It didn't seem like that she was telling me. But anyways, so we get into, so I start living 3 years. I make some mistakes, and eventually I realized that God was right. I shouldn't have even been dating this girl to begin with. And I was finally, after 3 years, I ended it. Probably 3.5 years, and I didn't know what to do. So for the next 2 or 3 months, I was single again. Went to an event, a Christian event at college. Was praying, and I was following God 100% again. I met another girl, and she seemed to be a decent girl. I led her to the Lord, and we got to know each other pretty well. We started dating soon after, and she was from another country, from China, and it was great. It was a great experience. There were a couple rough edges on both of us, but for the most part, it was good. But about 2 years into this relationship, I'm seeing red flags go off, but I'm ignoring them, and I'm starting to get a little concerned about some of the things I'm seeing. And I had a dream, and the dream was just, it showed me kind of a future with her, and it was one of the worst experiences you can think of as someone you could possibly marry. It was, in my opinion, it was a worse experience than cheating that I ended up having in this vision, and it scared me. And I was like, okay, that's what does that mean? And so I prayed about it, and like I said, there were other red flags that were happening, and I felt God tell me. He told me in my spirit. He said, this person, you're not going to marry him. It's not good for you to marry him. You can if you want, but it's not going to end up well. He said, but this is what I want you to do. He said, I'm going to save you from this if you allow me. He said, but this is how you do it. He said, you just need to end things with her, because she's putting you at a higher place than what she's putting me. And I prayed about it, and there was a question kind of put on my spirit that I could ask her, and that's, who is the most important person in your life? Now, mind you, she's been a Christian for 2 years here. And I remember I broke up with her, and she took it very hard, and she ended up coming over. I didn't want her to come over, but she came over anyways, and we sat outside at about midnight out on a porch swing. And she came over, and she begged me to take her back, and I was like, okay, maybe we can make this work. And I was like, before we decide on anything, I have to ask you a pretty big question. I said, and this is going to determine everything. I said, I really want you to tell the truth, but just be careful when you answer this slowly, because this will ultimately determine everything. I said, who's the most important person in your life? I said, is it God? Is it me? Is it your family? Is it you? Or is it God? I made sure to mention God twice. Maybe not in... I mentioned him first and last and twice. That was the... I think I mentioned myself as the second one, but the others, I don't really remember. Maybe her work was one of the things I mentioned. But so anyways, I made sure to go through that, and she thought about it for a minute. And she said, well, honestly, it's you. And at that point, it became very clear that I was competing against God. And if you're ever playing a game against God, I don't think it's possible to win. I mean, at worst, you're gonna, or at best, I should say, you're gonna be like Jacob. And Jacob had a stalemate with God. You know, he was wrestling against the Spirit of God, or the angel of God, and it became a stalemate. But he ended up becoming crippled because of that. And I know that if you compete against God, you're never going to beat him. And like I said, best case, which is probably not going to happen, is a stalemate. And in this situation, I didn't even see stalemate as a possibility. So I had to break up with her, and that was the hardest thing I think I've ever done. But ultimately, what that ended up doing was preparing me to accept the calling he had on me. And so for the next year, I had really seeked God. I didn't chase any women. I didn't have that desire anymore. It was just, I fully seeked God. And so in 2016, this is about a year after I broke up with this girl, I was praying, and I was really seeking God with everything, but through the things that was happening, I didn't think he could ever use me anymore, not to the extent that he could. I thought I had messed up too much through the different things. I knew he called me, but yet I disobeyed him, willingly disobeyed him. It seemed like I knew with near certainty that God was telling me not to even date the first girl, but yet I disobeyed him, and that caused a lot of problems. It caused a lot of problems between me and God. The second girl, she helped restore me in a little way, but not to the extent that needed to be done. Just to kind of show how amazing God redeems and he restores, and how he had a plan for me, and I didn't actually mess it up. I just delayed it. So in 2016, I went to sleep, and I had a dream or a vision, and I woke up. I knew it was significant, and it was about me going to Peru. This is the first time. See, previous to this, every maybe 3 to 6 months, I would open up a drawer and I would see that soccer jersey, and it would remind me of Peru. But here I'm in college, and I hadn't thought about it for at least 6 months, that jersey. I wake up from this dream, and I had this vision about going to Peru, and I knew it was significant. And this is the first time ever having like this desire and urge to go, and I didn't know what it meant. I didn't look up anything. I didn't Google anything. I spent the entire day alone in my room. I had that day as an off day, and I didn't speak to anybody throughout that day. And I just prayed. I said, God, you make that clear, then I'll go. But I'm not just going to go because I had a dream and some guy, 6 years ago gave me a soccer jersey. Those two things just don't line up. Not enough to, just book a plane ticket and go. I've never been outside the country. I don't know how to line things up like that. I said, but if you make it clear, I'll go. I'll do whatever you want. But later that night, I have a routine before going to sleep. Is I play a video game, check my Facebook, check my email, go to sleep. I check my Facebook and there's nothing new. Nobody posted anything. I live a pretty quiet life. I don't post very much. I played my video game, ended up winning, and I assume I ended up winning. I like to exaggerate that fact. But at the end, whenever I was finally finished, I was like, let me check my email. I doubt I'll have anything. I never have anything anyways, but may as well check. And so I opened up my email, and I had an email from a guy named Gene Fernandez. Never seen that name before. And the subject line was the Lord Jesus Christ. And I thought about it for a minute. And I thought, man, I've got a long-lost relative in another country that needs help, or maybe there's a prince from Nigeria that, he just needs a little bit of money, and he can send me a massive amount of wealth. I mean, it's going through my mind. And I was just kind of thinking about it. This is a Gmail account. And this is a Gmail account that I use specifically for gaming. I don't use it for really anything personal. It's I had another account for that, and the main reason for that is I wanted my work life and my gaming life as separate. That way, if I get a business degree and go for some kind of professional job, they're not going to be looking through my record and saying, "Oh, you play video games," and let's not hire you because of that. And so, anyways, I'm looking at this account, and I'm looking at this email, and I'm thinking, I could just delete this immediately. And then I looked at it again, and I realized it got through my spam filter. But not only that is, I do check my spam, and this is the first time that I've ever seen one of these type of emails get through the spam filter. I thought there's got to be some kind of marketing technique or something that they're causing these people to commit their life savings to, or there's got to be something there that you can learn from. Not that you're going to scam someone, but I just thought maybe there's something interesting there, something I can observe and be able to apply it somehow through marketing and business in my business classes. One of the first things right off the bat is there's a picture. When you click it, you can either put your what is it? You can upload a picture, or it just stays as like the first letter of your name, which is an I or whatever. The first part of the email is, "Hello, my name is Gene Fernandez, and I am from Lima, Peru." And I didn't read anything else. I just froze, and I remembered that dream earlier on, and then I just prayed this, and now I'm thinking, okay, well, this is more than just coincidence. I don't really believe in coincidences. I don't know what this means. What's going on here? I was starting to freak out a little bit, in a good way. I was starting to freak out, and so I continued to read. "I've called out to you because the Lord has shown me a vision. While I was in my church Tiempos de Cambio, I was praying that God would send someone down here to Peru to help guide my people to the Lord. We need a leader for a revival. As I was praying, I saw a vision of a white figure, and he told me there was a man from the mountains of America that could save us. He said all I had to do was tell you that he had once called you to Peru, and now it was the time to answer. He said he sent a messenger to you when you were younger. He gave me a vision of you and who you are. He gave me your name and how I may reach you. I do not know if you will be convinced, but I must not lose faith. You are the son of a builder, a brother of an engineer, and you have great faith in the Lord. Jesus has shown this to me. Please, brother, hear our plea. We need you here to help us. Please reply so I know I've reached you. Que Dios te bendiga." Yeah, so that happened. Whew. I was speechless. I was motionless. I was a lot of things. But the emotion I remember the most was love. I felt like God loved me. That even though I screwed up, made some huge mistakes, he was like, you know what? I still want you. Now, everything about that email was true. My father was a carpenter when he was bilocational pastor. He was a carpenter, and he was also a pastor. And then later on, he became focused on the church and this outreach center called the Servants of God. And there was always some kind of building project. I distinctly remember someone asking me another pastor kind of asked me, how would you describe your father? Someone else would say, you know what, the best way I think I would describe him is as a builder. He's all the time building things, whether it's actual buildings or building for the kingdom of God, like people. And that had always stuck with me. Several people had said that it was something that, you know, if you saw my father, you'd know is true. My brother had just graduated as a dual major, both engineering degrees, and he had just gotten a job at the university doing some engineer work. So to me, that was perfectly true. And as far as you're from the mountains of America, you know, I'm from West Virginia, one of the things it said is you're from the mountains of America. And, you know, out of everything, that probably stuck with me most as the neatest, because I'm from West Virginia. And, one of the things we pride ourselves, I think, more than anything else is being a mountain state. We have a song by John Denver written about us, Mountain Mama, Take Me Home Country Roads. But we very much pride ourselves as being from the mountains. And that's something I thought was just profound. The way the email was written, it didn't name me specifically, but it named everything about me in such a way that I felt like it was written specifically for me. And so I prayed about it. I was like, okay, God, I'm pretty sure this is real. I don't know what that would mean. I don't know what that would do. I don't know. I was blown away by it. So I thought, you know what, this is what's going to happen. God, I can send a one-line response saying something simple. But this is how I'm going to know it's from Him. And this is what my spirit is telling me, as well as what I'm telling my spirit. It's like we're both in agreement here. And I said, I'm going to send a one-line response, and He's going to answer that. And then He's going to give me, you know, the contact information of the pastor, whoever's in charge down there. Once He does that, His job's done. And I can try to send him a couple more emails. I can be as persuasive as possible, but he won't respond because his job is done. His job was just to make contact with me. Hello, Mr. Waker. We need help building our church. We need a leader to help us lead others to the Lord. My vision that God gave of you showed you with the children. Our children need you. I am no leader, but God has given me the gift of prophecy. I have seen what God can do through you. You were born in a great family who has nourished your love for the Lord. We need that passion in our country. I hope you can pray and let the Lord decide if you need to be with us in Peru. Only the Lord can decide. May the Lord guide you. If the Lord decide, I hope you hear His call. Our Facebook page is here. Our contact number is there. And there's a link to Facebook. And again, for Que Dios te bendiga, Gene Fernandez. I ended up sending another response saying, tell me about your church, tell me about the senior pastor, or tell me who your senior pastor is and how well he speaks English. I also want to know about who you are. What are you struggling, and what can I start praying for y'all about? And I never got a response. A couple days later, I sent another email, and I didn't get a response. But I clicked that link, I checked out that Facebook page. I put it in a proxy, and I was being very careful whenever I opened the email. But so anyways, I open up the email the Facebook link, and I check it out. It's a legit church. It seems like it's a small Assemblies of God church. I'm from an Assembly of God church, and everything just started to click. That's the story on how I got called. The journey itself has been even more profound than the calling itself. But I just wanted to, like I said, make this first video on just the calling. The next video I'll be doing about my first journey going into Peru. One of the big things to note is, well, you're just going to have to wait for the next video to find out.